Everyone, welcome to the investor.bet AFL round 15 betting trends preview. We're going to look at all the games coming up this weekend. We're going to go through how I'm approaching betting on these games, who I think is going to win, how much I think they're going to win by, and what's going to lead to that result so that you can make the best betting decisions this weekend. Before we get into the games coming up though, I want to quickly backtrack and look at round 14. So there were 7 games in round 14 in the Best Bets membership. We ended up going 6-1. We were 3 disposals off going a perfect 7-0 on the round, but still going over the 60% hit rate on the season with our bets. So the AFL season is tracking along really well. Generally, there's one bet in every single game, and you can view that bet in the best bets, which is in the description. The round started on Thursday with the Bulldogs beating St Kilda by 72 points. It ended with Carlton winning by 34. Favourites won 6 of the 7 games. GWS beating the Brisbane Lions by 11 points, were the only underdog to win a game outright. Favourites covered in 4 of the 7 games. Underdogs though on the season are 61-59 against spread, so slight better record overall for underdogs on the year. Adelaide just covered as underdogs against Hawthorn. GWS obviously winning outright and covering against Brisbane. And then North Melbourne covered, just losing to Fremantle by 6 points. There were only 2 home teams to win this weekend. Hawthorn by 3 over Adelaide and Port Adelaide by 25 over Melbourne. Away teams won the other 5 games, also covered 5 of the 7 games. This season, away teams are 62-58 against the spread. The slight exception to that this weekend was Fremantle beating North Melbourne, and Fremantle were technically the home team with that game at Optus Stadium. 4 games went over the total, 3 went under. Still a huge record in favour of the unders this year, 71-49 so far. Vast majority of AFL games are going under the totals. Looking ahead to round number 15 now. The first game on Thursday night, we have Fremantle against Essendon. Fremantle, $1.18 favourites, minus 29.5, and the total is 155.5. Essendon have a really good record against Fremantle. They won the only encounter last year, albeit by 1 point, 90-89, but they've won 6 of the past 8 overall, though Fremantle have now won 2 of the past 3. They won the 2022 and 2023 meetings. Back-to-back games in Perth for Fremantle, and had the bye prior to that, plus their game after this is also at Optus Stadium against St Kilda as well. So a really good patch here. They've won their last 4 straight. They've covered 3 of their past 4. They've only scored 73 and 75 points in the last 2 games, both for wins. Their opponent hasn't scored over 67 points across their past 4 games, and they have played Gold Coast during that time, and also Port Adelaide, which is a team that's turned a corner, GWS as well. So it's not like they've been keeping really bad teams to low scores. At home, they should be too good than who really struggle to score. They're ranked 3rd last in terms of points scored and 2nd last in shots on goal per game. They're one of the least efficient sides in terms of going inside 50 and generating scoring shots, and I think Fremantle will be able to limit their scoring enough for them to win this game. I'd also be looking at disposal markets here, particularly for Fremantle. Essendon give up the 3rd most disposals to the opposition, the 2nd most uncontested possessions. Fremantle also give up around an average number of disposals, and we know Essendon are the number 1 disposal team, so it's a pretty good prop game as well. But expect Fremantle to win, and I think they'll win somewhat comfortably. I don't think it's going to be a big blowout margin by 30-40 points or anything like that, but I think they'll go very close to covering this spread. I think they'll win by about 4 goals. So that's how I'm approaching betting on the first game. With the total in that game, it's currently 155.5. There is rain around. I think this number is about 5 points lower due to the weather conditions. If it does clear up, I'd lean towards the over. Right now, probably no play. And if it is a little bit rainy as well, that also sets up well for some disposal markets. There's a lot of players in this game who love to generate plenty of handballs, which is a really easy way to rack up high disposal numbers. On Friday night, really good game, 2nd versus 3rd, Geelong versus Brisbane in Geelong, so at GMHBA Stadium. Geelong, 15.5 point favourites, they're $1.42, the total is 166.5. Brisbane won the meeting earlier this year in round 3 at the Gabba by 9 points. That was played in the rain, 70-61 was the final score. Geelong covered as 14.5 point underdogs. That's basically what the line is here for Brisbane now being on the road. So the market's just completely flipped for now the opposite team being at home. Geelong is the team that's in the better form of the two. They've won their last 5 straight, beating Essendon, Gold Coast, Western Bulldogs, and Port Adelaide. Geelong have scored 101 or more points in 5 of their last 6 games. The only exception was the game against Gold Coast, which was played in the rain. It's going to be very difficult for Brisbane to keep up with them in this game, and they're going to have to improve defensively. They conceded 107 against GWS last week, which was their most they've conceded in any game so far this season. That's definitely concerning. They're going up against the Cats on the road. Brisbane have lifted their scoring a little bit lately. They have scored 90 plus in 3 of their last 4 games. Just didn't get there against the Crows in that Friday night game in the rain. But for the most part, our scoring, I think we could see a bit of a high scoring game here, and it'll lean towards the over, even though 3 of the past 4 between them have gone under the number at 166.5. Geelong have covered 5 of the past 6 versus Brisbane, and Brisbane have won 3 of the past 4 versus Geelong. Important stat though is Geelong have won the past 8 against Brisbane at GMHBA Stadium. They haven't played there in a while now, but that's a very strong record. Geelong, number 2 attacking side so far this season, averaging 102 points a game. They generate the 2nd most shots at goal. Brisbane ranks 6th in points for and 5th in shots at goal. Both teams should get plenty of chances. Neither are super strong defensively, but Geelong are the slightly better defensive side. Clearances and stoppages, that should favour Brisbane in this game. But in terms of efficiency, that's where Geelong really excel, both in attack and defence, but particularly in attack. They generate the most goals per inside 50 at 28.4%, which is best in the league. They also generate the 2nd most scoring shots. As long as both teams are accurate, this game should go over. Obviously, pending weather conditions, also pending lineups, but I think both teams will, there's no going to be resting players or anything like that for this game. So it should be both teams as close as they can be to 100%. And I like Geelong to win, and also like it to go over the total. Carlton versus North Melbourne. This is the first game on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be played at the MCG, and these sides haven't met at the MCG since round 3, 2004. Carlton are $1.25 favourites. The handicap is minus 24.5, and the total is 165.5. Carlton have won the past 5 versus North Melbourne, and they've scored 107 or more points in each of those 5 games. They met earlier this season in round 6, and Carlton won 153-71. Carlton are returning from Perth after beating West Coast on Sunday night. They won that game by 34 points, 86-52, and covered the spread. They've now won their 2 games since the bye against West Coast and Essendon, but also have won 6 of their past 9 games overall. Losses against GWS Sydney and Adelaide during that period. Carlton should be too good. Like, both teams are returning from Perth. Probably should have mentioned that with North Melbourne as well. They played the game against Fremantle on the Saturday, so they've got an extra day's rest, but they've had 2 weeks over in Perth and then have to travel down to Tasmania following this. I think with the game being at the MCG, that does favour Carlton slightly more. The game early this year at Marvel, it was 82 points difference between the two sides. It's very difficult to see North Melbourne turning that back around. Carlton were the team that have kicked the biggest score against North Melbourne all season long. Next best was Gold Coast at 141. Don't think Carlton's going to score 150 points in this game, particularly with it being at the MCG. But do think they'll win comfortably. Important game for Carlton to keep their momentum going, as they do have a little bit of a tricky run home and can't afford really to drop this game. There's concern over Charlie Kerner and Harry Mackay, so that's something you've got to pay close attention to once the lineups come out, as that could impact their scoring. Right now, I think Carlton win. I think we'll see points in this game. It should be fairly high scoring without being anything extravagant. Could also look at Carlton to be leading at halftime and then go on to win the game, as they're a very good first half side. That's been consistent throughout the year. They've just struggled in second halves, but they may be able to, if they get off way to a good start here, they shouldn't let North Melbourne come back and beat them. With the total at 165.5, the past 8 head-to-head have gone over the total. But Carlton this year have only had 2 games go over. One of those being against North Melbourne, the other against GWS, where they conceded 110 points. Outside of that, every other game's gone under the number. North Melbourne, on the other hand, they're also been a big underside. Their last 6 games have gone under the total. So we've got alternating trends here. Both teams favouring unders, but it favours overs. Right now, I think we'll see a slightly higher scoring game. It should go over the 165.5, but I don't think it's going to go over by a huge deal. So look for alternate lines, that kind of thing, as a potential way to play it. We'll need Carlton to probably score close enough to 100 points in order to get the over. So also consider looking at their team total, but it's probably more so going to be around the 110 mark. Not so much the around 100 mark, but we'll wait and see. And obviously lineups are going to be really important. Port Adelaide versus Sydney. Port favourites $1.58 minus 9.5. The total is 168.5. Last week, Port Adelaide beat Melbourne in a game where both teams' seasons were not fully on the line, but pretty close to it. Similar situation again this week, particularly for the Sydney Swans. This is must win for them. They're off the bye, but definitely not playing all that well. They come into this game beating Richmond, but did lose 3 or 4 games prior to that, and did get scrape a close win over Carlton in round 10, but just generally not playing all that well. Port Adelaide, though, need to keep on winning. They've won 9 of the past 10 versus Sydney. They've covered 4 of the past 5. Port Adelaide have also won the past 5 versus Sydney at the Adelaide Oval. The only game that Sydney have beaten them in was probably the most important of those 9 or of those 10 games, and that was the preliminary final last year at the SCG. Sydney winning 95-59. Had Port Adelaide won that game, we might have seen a better grand final in the end, but it wasn't meant to be. Sydney got the one that counted the most, but that was at the SCG. This time it's at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide, if they bring the intensity that they've shown the past 2 weeks since their bye against Melbourne and GWS, they'll win this game. It's just a matter if you can back them in to do that. I think they will, and with their record against Sydney, I can have a little bit more confidence. I think they should be shorter than the $1.60 that they're currently at, and I like them to win this game. 6 of the past 7 head-to-head have gone under. 5 of the past 7 in this matchup at the Adelaide Oval have also gone under. Last week, Port Adelaide's game went over, but their 5 games prior to that have all gone under the total. And for the Sydney Swans, they have been a big underside as well. 5 of their last 6 games have gone under. Right now, the total is 168.5. I make a fair total for this game, 158.5. So I have a strong lean towards the under for the Saturday twilight game. And on Saturday night, we have Collingwood. So first on the ladder versus St Kilda down in 14th. Collingwood are $1.17 favourites, minus 30.5, and the total is 168.5. These sides have met once last season, and St Kilda won by 15 points, 94-79, as $2.55 underdogs. Though Collingwood have won 5 of the past 7 versus Saints. St Kilda have covered 3 of the past 4 versus Collingwood. The past 9 meetings have, for the most part, been fairly close. They've all been decided by 1 to 44 points. Collingwood, though, clearly the team in better form of the two. They had the bye last week, and prior to that, beat Melbourne by 1 point. So they're well rested. They've had 12 days off leading into this game. St Kilda played against the Western Bulldogs on the Thursday night, so they've had 9 days rest. So only a 3-day rest advantage for Collingwood, even though they had the bye. But St Kilda were absolutely blown off the park by the Western Bulldogs. They conceded 132 points, which was just under their season high of 135 back in round 1 against Adelaide. Really can't see Collingwood dropping this game. They should be far too strong for a St Kilda side that's only won 2 of their past 9 games. And matching up these sides statistically, you got a top 5 attack against a 10th ranked attack, and you've got the best defense in the competition going up against a bottom 5 defensive side. In terms of efficiency ratings, it significantly favors Collingwood as well. Whilst they're only ranked 5th in points scored, they're the number 1 team at generating scoring shots per inside 50 against a St Kilda side that give up the 14th most inside 50s at 55 per game. Collingwood should get chances. Like, Collingwood only average 52 a game. But if that pushes up to 55, 56, 57, and more in alignment with what St Kilda are averaging, then there's definitely trouble for the Saints. With this game being at Marvel Stadium, it's probably more so a home game for St Kilda technically. Collingwood have only played there once so far this season, which was against North Melbourne. They won that game by 45 points, whereas St Kilda have played there obviously on multiple occasions. They've already had 7 games there this season. They've only won against Fremantle, Richmond and Geelong back in round 2, but quite a few losses in there as well. Against top sides like the Western Bulldogs, they conceded 127 and 132 points, both at Marvel Stadium. Against the Brisbane Lions, they conceded 118 there. Against Gold Coast, they only conceded 80. But I think Collingwood will get to around 100 points, maybe even just over here, and that'll be enough to comfortably win this game. St Kilda's recent wins against Melbourne. Melbourne was super inaccurate. I've spoken about that in previous videos. And the game against Fremantle, where Fremantle only scored 33 points and didn't show up at all. So Collingwood to win on Saturday night. The total for this game is 168.5. 3 of the past 5 have gone under. It's not a super strong trend. The last time the total was 161.5, 7 points higher this time around. But that also is because we're at Marvel instead of the MCG where they played last season. 3 of the past 4 between them at Marvel have gone over the total. St Kilda, 4 of their past 6 have gone under. Collingwood, their last 4 have gone under. With the number at 168.5, I make a fair total for this game at 170.5. So purely based on stats, it's a slight lean towards the over. But with the way these teams are trending and the fact that Collingwood don't really score many points, I'll probably refrain from backing it. The first game on Sunday, GWS against Gold Coast. It's a really good game. Probably the second best game of the round behind Geelong versus Brisbane Lions. We've got 7th versus 6th. Important game for both teams. GWS at home are favourites at $1.75. They are minus 4.5. GWS come into this game after beating Brisbane Lions at the Gabba last week by 11 points. They've now won 3 of their past 4 games, dropping the game against Port Adelaide in between. And Gold Coast are off the bye and on the road again this week. It seems like Gold Coast have had a lot of games on the road so far this season. They've only played at People First Stadium on 3 occasions so far this year. They obviously had 2 games at TIO Stadium, but that's their alternate home venue. Through the run home though, they have multiple games there. They only have 5 more games where they need to travel, this being one of them. GWS have a great record against Gold Coast. They've won 13 of the past 14, and Gold Coast's win was just by a single point, 65-64 at Mars Stadium in round 17, 2021. GWS have covered 9 of the past 10. 9 of the past 10 also have been decided by 26 or more points. Now, my first look at this game, I expected it to be close. Gold Coast games, their last 6 games over, 3 wins, 3 losses, have all been decided by 24 or less. So I was thinking this is a prime bet for a try bet, and we'll see a close game. GWS's last 3 games have been decided by 16 or less. The Gold Coast are significantly improved this season, and I think that'll keep this game close. Gold Coast actually come into it as the better attack and defense when you match them up against each other, and I think that holds them in good stead on the road here. GWS were really good last week against Brisbane. They hold that form. It's probably enough for them to beat Gold Coast, but I think they'll regress just a little bit. They have a really good record against Brisbane as well, but I think we'll see a really close game. We can't see as much as the previous games have been blowouts. I don't think this one's going to be. I think try bet is the perfect bet for this game. I make a fair total, 172.5. Right now, as I record this, there's no total points line posted. We'll see what they go up with, but 5 of the past 6 head-to-head have gone under. GWS, 2 of their past 3 have gone under, and for Gold Coast, their last 3 games have gone under. So there's a lot of trends favouring the under. If we get a number in the high 170s, the under is probably the play. If it's the low 170s or even under 170, then it's probably a stay away for me. And the final game of the round, Western Bulldogs against Richmond. Bulldogs, big favourites. They're $1.06, almost a 50-point favourite. There's still no total for this game. Western Bulldogs have won and covered the past 3 versus Richmond. They won by nearly 100 points in the only game last season, round 9 at the MCG. This game at Marvel Stadium, where the Bulldogs have won the last 5 against Richmond. Last time they played there, Bulldogs were $1.42 and won 126-71. The Western Bulldogs have had 10 days rest coming into this as they played on the Thursday night last week, winning by 72 against St Kilda, getting back that win after losing to Hawthorn the week prior. This will be their 3rd straight game, first of those in the day game though, and then for Richmond, they come off the bye this week, and prior to that had lost 4 straight, losing to Sydney, only scoring 36 points in this game. really can't see a world where Richmond score enough points here to beat the Western Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are ranked number 1 in points for. Richmond rank last. They're polar opposites of the equation, and Richmond are also the lower ranked defensive side of the two of them. Bulldogs ranked 10th, Richmond ranked 16th. Efficiency rankings, both attack, defense. Bulldogs are favoured, but particularly in attack. Goals per inside 50, 2nd versus 16th. Bulldogs just have too much scoring power for Richmond to be able to go with them. Richmond need to turn this into a real contested kind of game with lots of stoppages in order to limit the Bulldogs scoring. That's how they've kept themselves in games this season against GWS, against North Melbourne, those kind of things. But against the Western Bulldogs, and it being at Marvel Stadium as well, I don't think that's going to be possible. So, like the Bulldogs to win, I think they'll win by a decent margin. Richmond have only lost by more than 40 points in 2 of their past 6 losses. So they haven't been blown out too many occasions this season. This could be a game that may eventuate with the setup that it's looking at. I make a fair total for this game, 170.5. So we'll see what total gets posted. Once I finalize everything I'm betting, this is just my early look. I post it all in the Best Bets membership, which you can access through the link in the description. That's where I do all the research for you to get the exact bets and why they're the bet, and you can go in and follow along and profit on the AFL. This season we're going at over 60% win rate, creeping up to over 61, 62%. So going really well. The second half of the season is generally the better half of the season, as we have a lot more information on how these teams play compared to earlier in the year. But we've had a great start so far, so we'll definitely be continuing that. Definitely take a look, check it out, and I'd love to see you a part of the AFL Best Bets. You also get all the Bet Finder tools as well. So if you're somebody who looks at games and you want to make your own bets, and you can sometimes look at a game and you're just unsure which way to go or whether this player is a good bet or this team is a good bet, the Bet Finders give you that information to make that decision. That's why I built it. I wouldn't have been able to bet full-time for over a decade without the Bet Finders, and last season was the first time I made them fully available to everyone to use as well. I adjusted them slightly to make it super simple and straightforward to give you the information that you need to make those betting decisions. And there's every single tool in there that I personally use. Definitely check it out. Really appreciate you guys watching, being part of investor.bet and following along on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any videos through the rest of the season, and good luck with your bets.